I think with Ariana, she's somebody that you feel as though you know a lot about. If you break it down, I don't really think we do. I think she's very fascinating in that way. You feel as though you've got this parasocial relationship with her. You're like, Mac has passed away. She's had a divorce. She's broken up with Pete. She's had Manchester. Nickelodeon happened. There has been so much in that girl's life that has happened in the public eye to the point where you've almost felt as though you grieve with her. And I think that creates an intimacy between celebrity and fans. But at the same time, you don't really know anything about her at all. You don't know her day-to-day routine. You don't know what her and her friends talk about. There's just so many things that I'm like, I don't really think you know her as a person. And I think because she keeps everybody almost at arm's reach, that's a very fascinating thing as a fan.
Welcome to Stan, the podcast where we dissect our enthusiastic and at times obsessive relationships with cultural phenomena. I mean, have you ever caught yourself unironically insisting that it's not just a phase? Or stayed up all night to finish that book that you just can't put down? Or have you ever had such a huge crush on a celebrity that it made your heart physically ache? I have. So join me as we figure out why certain things or people capture our attention and affection so well. I'm really happy that you're here. A quick heads up, if you are looking for journalistic objectivity and integrity, you're not going to find it in today's episode. Not proud of it, woman enough to say it. I will be the first to acknowledge that I have quite an intense parasocial relationship with Ariana Grande. For instance, a few months ago, I posted a TikTok about how the song Hampstead somehow tickles such a nerve in me that I can't seem to listen to it without bursting into tears. This isn't unusual. I went to a Bad Bunny concert last night and I cried twice. And before you ask, yes, I am the most overly sensitive person on God's green earth. In fact, I think that's primarily why I feel quite connected to Ariana Grande. She is often ridiculed for crying or overreacting in press tour videos and interviews, and snippets are clipped and made into GIFs and stickers and circulated on social media. Maybe it's narcissism or delusion, but as someone with huge feelings and a tendency to overcompensate in conversation, to provide a sense of comfort to the person I'm speaking to, I honestly think it's really charming. Another reason why I feel such a parasocial relationship to her is because I find myself defending her a lot, which is one of the marks of a possibly unhealthy relationship with a celebrity. In fact, the impulse to defend a celebrity you don't know is a behavior that I find, in general, so odd that it inspired me to start this project in the first place. This isn't to excuse her of playing any part in the scandals that have rocked her career, like accusations of appropriation or home wrecking, in inverted commas. I think I'm just a little bit more forgiving than the average person. Although, if the baseline for forgiveness and a lack of judgment is the social media comment section, it's quite a low bar to clear. I'm getting ahead of myself though. Let's start at the beginning. Ariana Grande got her start on the Broadway stage playing Charlotte in the musical 13. From there, she was cast as the lovable but not super smart Cat Valentine in the hit Nickelodeon show Victorious, that followed the fictional lives of teens in a specialized performing arts high school. She performed so well on that role that she earned a spin-off show with another character from the Nickelodeon universe, Sam Puckett from iCarly, who was played by Jeanette McCurdy, now a best-selling author of her book, I'm Glad My Mum Died. During her time on that show, Ariana's music career began to blow up, something that McCurdy has mentioned became a huge source of tension on set. Ariana has recorded 8 studio albums, the last of which, Petal, is set to be released this July. She has won 3 Grammy Awards from 22 nominations. More recently, she's returned to the screen again, going from guest starring roles in Don't Look Up to the iconic role of Glinda the Witch in the smash hit musical, for which she's nominated for an Oscar and a Golden Globe. This summer, she's set to appear in Focker-in-Law, the latest installment of the Meet the Fockers movie franchise. As mentioned in previous episodes, she was also cast in the movie adaptation of Dr. Seuss's Oh, the Places You'll Go. This is all the more impressive considering she's currently on tour with her last album, Eternal Sunshine. However, most of the media coverage around this tour isn't about the material itself, but something else entirely. Here's where I have to issue a trigger warning. We're talking about bodies and eating disorders, so if that's not cool for you, I would recommend you drop off here, and I'd love to see you when the next episode comes out in 2 weeks. The fact is, Ariana Grande is currently extremely thin, and this conversation came to the forefront of culture during her press tour for the movie Wicked, where people began to speculate about the appearances of her and her co-stars, in particular Cynthia Erivo and Michelle Yeoh. At this point, I wrote something wherein I spoke about the fact that it would crush me, and frankly has crushed me in the past, when I've achieved something that I'm really proud of and that I've worked really hard on, only to have people talk about my looks. Also, I'm generally a big believer, from personal experience too, I might add, that bodies fluctuate and neither weight nor appearance are reliable indicators of someone's health, especially from a distance. The most incredible example of this from my own life is that the best photos that have ever been taken of me were taken, I shit you not, the day before I was admitted to hospital for a virus that almost killed me. I'm not joking. I was sitting in my hospital bed on death's door watching the comments roll in about how gorgeous I looked 2 days beforehand. It's really complicated. Initially, I was really reluctant to comment on somebody else's changing body, particularly because she literally has a lyric in her song, Yes and, that says, do not comment on my body. Firstly, because I don't think it's helpful. And secondly, because I don't think I'd be saying anything new. People hopping onto social media for the past few months with faux concern about Ariana Grande's body as a thinly veiled plea for engagement seems a little icky to me. That said, as changing beauty standards are telling us that being impossibly thin is the ideal, I can feel my own brain changing a little bit. I grew up in the 2000s in a boarding house full of women, and so much of our conversations were dominated by our relationships to food and our bodies. Even before we had reached an age that we were fully developed, it breaks my heart that young women might be inducted into a cycle of shame and self-hatred that can just dominate your thought processes for years to come. Considering how and when I grew up, I feel quite lucky to have an okay relationship to my body. And the only reason I even say okay is because it's relative to so many friends and acquaintances for whom the issue has dominated their lives. That said, I don't know what's going on with Ariana Grande. From the numerous things I've read, I would encourage you to listen to Shameless Media's discussion surrounding Ariana Grande, which I will link in the show notes. They draw very heavily from an article written by Cara Kennedy in The Telegraph entitled Karen Carpenter offers a haunting warning for Ariana Grande fans. Another essay that I think reflects my thoughts on the matter much more eloquently was written by Liz Plank on Substack, which I will also link in the show notes. She posits that the concern that many people are performing on social media is just misplaced anxiety about their own fraught relationships with their bodies. It talks about the fact that disordered eating patterns are something that many people have to manage throughout their whole lives. It's an addiction, and it never goes away. And some people, unfortunately, are never able to overcome it. Therefore, the idea of seeing someone so successful struggle with something that seems so human is unbearable for a lot of people because it feels that they'll never be free of it. This essay reflects one of my key life philosophies that we all need to stop blaming individuals for responding to the social and institutional pressures that we all impose. It's not fair to make an example of someone as a moral failure who is just responding to the difficulties of an environment that we collectively create and enforce. Conversations surrounding Ariana's body is one of the many controversies that her career and persona has attracted. There is a running joke that Ariana is a cultural chameleon, and not in a good way. Early in her career, her look and mannerisms indicated a desire to be associated with the Black community. She had heavy spray tans, extensions, and regularly used African American vernacular English, or AAVE. Later on, she ditched the spray tans, changing her makeup and started to use Asian symbolism in her music videos and social media. More recently, she dyed her hair blonde and she stopped with spray tans altogether. This, shall we say, versatility has attracted a lot of accusations of appropriation from both Asian and Black communities. To be honest, here is the only place that I won't try to level a defense. Then there has been a lot of speculation about her relationships, all of which have been very public. They seem to indicate a pattern of moving from one partner to the next, to which I say, go off. They also mention that the timelines are pretty suspicious, to which I say, sure, but we'll never really know. Finally, although it's not a scandal, there has been a lot of hardship in her public life. Specifically on the 22nd of May 2017, the Manchester leg of Ariana's concert tour was bombed, tragically killing 22 people, including some children. Moreover, her long-term partner, Mac Miller, died of an overdose at 26 years old shortly after their public split, causing some particularly horrible people to blame her for his passing. I spoke about all of these scandals with my incredible guest, Lillie. Lillie is an entertainment journalist and TikToker who shares my love of an obsession with pop culture. She takes a really thoughtful, analytical, and in-depth approach to celebrity news. And she shares an interest in decoding how celebrity news reflects our own social realities. She completely won me over, not only with her sense of humor and consideration, but also for being such a professional, as we were interrupted around 7,000 times by doorbells and other distractions. I'm not joking, at one point someone was leaf blowing outside the door for maybe an hour, only to stop leaf blowing, to my relief, and then shortly afterwards run up a chainsaw and start trimming the hedges. Despite all odds, we recorded such a fun and interesting conversation, and that's totally down to Lillie. We get into the long-term impact of child stardom, the era of Tumblr thinspo, and the double standards in considering women's personal lives and relationships far more heavily in evaluating their art than we do for men. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Here's our conversation. I'm so excited about talking about Ariana Grande. Okay, so I only realised I loved her this year, which is really late in the game. So I think it was like a combination of things. I think it was wicked.
Yeah.
I also think I was definitely that girl who like didn't allow themselves to enjoy early things for a long time. Now listening to her music, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot that this is actually really good. This is when I realised I was really in trouble. I watched Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the movie. Didn't flench. I was like, oh, it's a sad movie, blah, blah. Then I watched her music video and I was like crying within 5 minutes and I was like, okay, I think I might be obsessed with that. Let's start at the beginning. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Lillie, News of Those. I am an entertainment journalist by trade. I moved to London 2 years ago. I spend way too much time talking about pop culture.
My favourite kind of person.
One time, my friend sat there talking to me about the Alex Cooper problem, and I just went way too deep. I just went full entertainment reporter, and I was like, yeah, but if you look at it from this perspective, like, here's what's actually happened, and here's the background, and here's how that makes sense. And she was like, it's not that deep.
I didn't think about it that much.
And I was like, I've definitely thought about this a lot.
This is how I justify my obsession with pop culture. So last night my dad was here. I pulled up TV. The last thing I'd been watching was Love Island. He was like, we can watch Love Island. It's fine. And as we were going through it, I was explaining the social dynamics of everybody in the house because obviously we're a few episodes in. And he didn't care at all. But I was like, I think this is just my obsession with social dynamics and the interactions between people. My high school boyfriend, I remember this so vividly. When we broke up, he said, I don't watch reality TV, so I don't really know how to have this conversation.
No.
I guess a lot of people take prompts from watching real life situations and being like, oh, that's how I operate in the world. I feel like reality TV and pop culture mirrors our lives in such specific ways. And we, as a society, have demonized gossip, and it does have a social function of being able to take social cues and exchange information about people. And gossiping about celebrities is a way of discussing our real life without upsetting anyone, without offending anyone, without triggering anyone. But the people who suffer from it the most are the celebrities who are...
is awful. I was reading something about this yesterday, just like that. It's like men have sport. Theoretically, men sit there and they go, sport this, sport that, sport whatever. Women talk about pop culture and celebrity gossip. When they're talking about sport, they can criticize someone.
Yeah.
But it's never seen as gossipy or bitchy. And I don't really understand that because I'm like, women are still allowed to have hobbies as well.
Or when I started this as well, one of the first things I thought about is men will dress up, paint their faces, go to a stadium, scream, cry, and then if their team don't win, they fucking riot and ruin the city that they're in.
Girl, I could not understand, like when we first moved here and my boyfriend went to one of the football games and he was like, you're not allowed to drink in the stands. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, they're not allowed to drink in the stands because they get so upset if they don't win or like if the other team scores a goal or something. And I was like, what?
Whereas girls will go to a, I don't know, Taylor Swift concert or a K-pop concert, sing along, and everyone's like, it's fucking weird.
And exchange friendship bracelets. And I'm like, we're so innocent.
Yeah,
Like,
so
wait.
innocent. And people were like, it's so weird that she's so into it. And I'm like, let her have her thing. Ariana Grande.
All right.
You were like, I'm not into the last 2 albums.
No, so I've heard a couple of songs from Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah.
And I haven't really gotten into Petal at all. Like, at all.
At the moment, they only
Yeah.
have one song.
Oh, which one is that?
Hate That I Made You Love Me.
Yeah, see, I listened to the start of that and I was like, it doesn't really feel like my vibe. I love, love, love the Thank You Next and the Positions album.
Okay.
So I think maybe mine's just a bit more like poppy.
One of the conversations that we've had on this before is whether we allow artists to evolve artistically, and when they don't evolve, like, so Taylor Swift got so much blowback for Life of the Showgirl because people were like, she's so mature, she's in her 30s, why is she singing like that, why is she speaking like that? But then Ariana Grande put something out that people aren't into, and rather than just being like, I'm not sure this is my thing.
Yeah.
They'll go online and be like, I'm so fucking disappointed. I hate her. And I'm like, oh my God, she didn't write it for you. You really can't win.
No, exactly. And you can't expect anybody, let alone a celebrity, to be in the exact same emotional space as you. You listen to different music at different times because you are in a certain headspace. You can't then go, I'm going through this. I'm going to expect Ariana Grande to go through the exact same thing and that's what she's going to put on her album. Like, it doesn't work like that.
I also think we feel quite deeply connected to celebrities.
Yeah.
And so if their experience diverges from yours, it indicates that disconnect that people feel really uncomfortable with because they're like, I felt so connected with you. I thought we were going through exact same things.
Hey there, listeners. We're Sisters Assembled, a Marvel Theory podcast and your place for all things MCU.
Each week, we tackle a new topic relating to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including reactions to the Disney Plus shows and the movies, deep dives on characters and important concepts, news, and theories. You can find Sisters Assembled on your podcast platform of choice, on most social platforms, or you can check out our website at sistersassembled.com.
So come along for the ride, because Marvel just blew your mind, so let's talk about it.
So, when did you get into Ariana Grande as an artist?
Okay, so I was thinking about this. I was into Ariana before she released her debut album.
Oh.
But I don't remember her as an actress. I wasn't into her as an actress. I loved her Tumblr.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to say this because I don't know anything about it. So tell me more.
I used to just follow her on Tumblr and I was like, oh, she's got like the cutest photos. I loved her outfits. She always had those very cute A-line little flared skirts and she was wearing the massive high heels and she'd take her little mirror selfies. And I was like, I really like this girl. I love her whole vibe. She was just so girly and so feminine and I just loved it. But then I know there was a very toxic side of that Tumblr as well. People claim that she glamorized eating disorders. In her defense, I do think that was very much an era of Tumblr. I think everybody was doing it.
Yes.
I kind of came across her on Tumblr. On that era, YouTube was obviously a massive, massive thing. And there was this group in Australia called the Janoskians. I think there was 5 boys. 3 of them were brothers. And they just did the stupidest things. They just drank a whole gallon of milk just to see if they could throw it all up. You know, like, it was really stupid
Yeah,
stuff.
like Jackass kind of content.
100%, yeah. And I was like, this is great. These boys are hot. This is so funny. One of them thought that Ariana Grande was like the coolest thing ever. And so they went to LA and he ended up meeting Ariana and then they ended up dating. And so because they were Aussie and I was Kiwi and like obviously you watch them on YouTube, they feel very accessible because they're like Australians. And then they go to America and all of a sudden he's dating this massive star. And I was like, wow, that is crazy. And so I remember New Zealand and Australia were very invested in this relationship. From there, I guess I just fell even more into loving Ariana. I was like, that's so cool. She's so down to earth. Like, she's dating an Aussie boy.
It sounds like a kind of a weird, not inferiority complex, but like I don't know, does it feel quite far removed from the US? Because I feel like
100%, yeah.
I feel like in the UK, it's the same thing. Like you grow up idolizing the US. I remember as a kid, I begged my parents to move to suburban America, which I think is so crazy. It's so interesting how they've exported American media.
I know.
So much so that you're like, oh, she's so down to earth. She's dating
crazy.
this Australian guy. But that's also the dream come true that you fancy a celebrity from afar.
Well, that's the thing. And I think because obviously One Direction were a big thing at that point as well, and 5 Seconds of Summer, I think for the girls that would read Wattpad and stuff, you were like, whoa, it actually can happen.
Were you a Wattpad girly?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you couldn't not be. Like, I think if you enjoyed reading and you were also very deep in fandom culture, of course.
So I went to boarding school and we had to hand in our phones and our laptops You had internet access that was like certain websites were blocked. As a child, I had a really, really addictive personality. I wasn't so much in the Tumblr sphere.
Yeah.
And I think if I was exposed to that, it could have gotten really, really dark. I don't think I would have been able to responsibly engage with it at all.
Well, it was so regulated as well. Like, we really were the first group to ever deal with what was happening there. I was talking to someone the other day about this new December 10 band, and they were like, do you think they'll ever be as big as One Direction? And I was like, I don't. And that is not an insult to their talents at all.
Yeah.
I just genuinely think, like, when One Direction came out, that's when social media started as well. And everything that One Direction did, you were like, it was so parasocial, and it was almost like the first time that you could truly embed yourself in being parasocial.
Yeah.
Like, it was a really crazy time for that.
I now think like the media landscape is a lot more diverse. A band like One Direction could capture so much of the population really, really quickly. Whereas now I think you have the tools at your disposal to get a bit more of a subculture.
I completely agree with that. And I would say, like, almost when we were 15, 16 kind of vibe, I would say it was very much encouraged that you fit into that mainstream, whereas now I look at my cousins, when they were 15, 16, it was almost like cooler to not be into it.
It's not the same flex to be like, I really know Ariana Grande's
Yeah,
Tumblr.
exactly.
I didn't even know she was on Tumblr. That's how out of the loop I was.
Yeah, she was like huge on Tumblr.
This is after she...
I think this was Nickelodeon. She still had the Sam and Cat show. Maybe it was before Sam and Cat came out, even. She was very young.
So you didn't watch any of the Nickelodeon shows?
No, I wasn't a Nickelodeon girl. I feel like back home, you were either Nickelodeon or you were Disney Channel because you had to pay for them. So you could only have one or the other. And I was very much a Disney girl. Loved, like, Wizard's Waverly Place, Hannah Montana.
This is quite embarrassing for me, but I'll watch Nickelodeon shows as a comfort show. And I was in a hideously stressful job like 2 years ago, and I used to watch Victoria, Sam and Cat, Drake and Josh every morning while I was having my coffee, because it was the only thing that could regulate my nervous system. It is so comforting.
And you know nothing bad is going to happen in them.
There's so much hideous stuff that's come out afterwards, so I feel like I shouldn't be platforming it. But Drake and Josh is still fucking hilarious. My big question was going to be about the Jeanette McCurdy thing, but I guess...
Yeah, I obviously knew all about that when it came out because I was working as an entertainment reporter. I think it's a really interesting one. Jeanette has said as well, a lot of that was a projection of her own feelings. Like, she was really jealous of Ariana and she wanted those opportunities.
It would be hard not to be at that point.
And that's what I like fully agree with. I'm like, I would be jealous of someone too. And you can separate that. You can be like, I really like you as a person, but I'm really jealous of those opportunities that you're getting. And if you are also going through a lot of stuff at that time, of course you're just going to lean into that jealousy and that bitterness and like not enjoy your time with that person. The only thing I do wonder with that is when the book came out and obviously all of Jeanette's feelings came out, did Ariana know about it beforehand? Or did the book come out and she just found out about all these really hard feelings that her co-star had toward her?
I mean, it would be hard not to know. I think also the thing with Sam and Cat is that it was a duo and people love to compare women to other women. And it's so difficult as well. Again, speaking about how celebrity relationships reflect our lives, it is really hard if you have a sister or a best friend who is experiencing like a great time. There's so much written about if your friend becomes engaged or gets a really, really good job and you're like, I really want to be happy for you. I hate when people are like, I never get jealous. And I'm like, you do, but like, it's how you go on from that. At the same time, they were like 17.
Exactly. God, when I was 17, I was an absolute brat.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't know how to articulate my feelings.
So you really resonated with Ariana when you were younger, watching her on Tumblr?
I wouldn't say I'm ever somebody that looks at a celebrity and goes, I want to be you, as in dressing and makeup and everything. But I do when I was younger, and I think this is just like being in your teenage years, but when I was consuming so much Ariana Grande content on Tumblr, and I think this was very much the fashion in the era at the time. But yeah, you do your hair the same way and wear similar dresses and ballet flats, and funny that they've come full circle in their back. But yeah, I think you just start trying to be like them because you idolize them so much. I definitely, when I was deep in the Tumblr thing, fully had so much admiration for her that, yeah, I would dress like her, do my hair like her. I remember she had a teddy bear phone case and it was so iconic for her. And I remember I found one and I was like, I must have it. I must have it. And I think I paid something ridiculous, like $50, which is huge when you're like 60. I bought the phone case and you start talking like her and stuff. And I think that's my only ever moment that I've had where you try and embody the celebrity that you admire so much. There was like really toxic parts to it as well. Obviously on Tumblr, she would share what food she was having and people would ask her, how do you get so skinny? And she would be like, I'll have a spinach and cucumber and tomato salad for dinner. And so there were moments where I would start doing that too. You just don't know any better. You're just so young and so naive and so easily swayed. That was the first time I kind of got to know who she was. And then it just, I guess as her fame grew, I just loved her even more.
How old were you?
I reckon like 15.
Oh my God, prime time.
Oh yeah.
It's impossible not to get swept up in that.
Literally. I was a really insecure teenager. I always wanted to be like really slim. I feel like that's just a girl thing too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of girls feel that way. So you're seeing these celebrities that you idolize and they're super slim and you're like, well, how do I do it? You know, and you start looking like, what's their workout? And remember those videos? Did you ever come across them? It was like eating like Ariana Grande for the day.
People still do that.
Crazy shit. I would consume a lot of them. Looking back on it, I'm like, you poor thing. But I think if it wasn't like Tumblr and social media that was exposing you to it, I think you probably would have seen it in magazines or like the people around you.
It's like that crazy Vogue diet that they have from years
my
ago.
God.
That's like, eat a steak and smoke a cigarette and have a black coffee. And they're like, oh, well, these celebrities are really propagating diet culture. And I'm like, yes, but also they're individuals within a much larger system and like operating in a legacy of women trying to make themselves as slim as possible. It's not like diet culture just sprung up around celebrities. And yes, of course, like they are individually responsible. At the time, she was probably like, she's like 21. And then as well, in that time, I think when social media was coming up, when Tumblr was like just starting to be a thing, it was very much probably just her trying to express herself. Whereas now people are much more savvy with what gets put out. There was a huge thing about Tumblr when we were at school, but no one was interested in celebrities. It was just thinspo. And I remember a lot of girls had that misattributed Kate Moss quote as their background screen.
Oh my God. Is that the one that was like, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels? And then there was also the Sex and the City one where Carrie was like, I bought myself an issue of Vogue for dinner because it fed me more. I remember that was doing the rounds at the same time. That was pretty crazy. A lot of her old posts are being resurfaced as well.
I haven't seen them.
Especially the ones what she was eating. And there would be pictures of her dinner and it would just be genuinely like cucumber sticks. And this is what I struggle with as well because, I mean, she was a young girl in the public eye, like, leave her alone. But at the same time, she puts a photo up. But that's not to say that's what she actually ate.
That's the thing about social media. I remember so vividly I went on a disaster trip 2 years ago.
Oh my God. Do share.
Holy so horrible. The whole trip was a disaster start to finish. Nobody was talking by the end of it. Friendships all blew up.
No.
But the photos were cute. And I was like, okay, well, I'll post these. And then I remember I went back to work and everybody was like, oh my God, I saw the trip. It looked so fun. Did you have a good time? Every single person I was like, no, that trip sucked so much. I haven't stopped crying for like 3 days. So I've fallen out with 3 of my closest friends. I almost left early.
There was a photo of her and there was like windows behind her and you could only see from like maybe here down. Anyway, she was standing with her like feet together to show off her thigh gap, which obviously was a massive
huge thing
at that point. I remember that resurfaced recently as well, and people were like, she's always been body checking herself. It's just used in this argument against her now.
I read something really interesting this week, and I'll send it to you. Do you know Liz Plank?
Yes, I started reading that on the tube.
Yeah, essentially the argument is that people aren't worried about Ariana Grande, they're worried about what she reflects in ourselves. And it's a lifelong thing, and it's like an addiction, and you never really get over it. She's saying it scares people to see someone who seemingly had everything and seems to be so wealthy and famous and powerful be taken down by something that is so all-consuming. It's less about people being worried about her than them being worried about themselves and how that could come back in their lives, God forbid. And I thought it was the best response to the whole...
Yeah.
So let's talk about the conversation about Ariana and the tour. What are your thoughts? It's a really difficult thing to talk about,
it
like,
is a hard
objectively.
thing to talk about because I don't really want to give an opinion on her body. I don't know what she is going through. All I can think about, and I know this is a really extreme case, but all I can think about is when Chadwick Boseman got really, really skinny and people were like, oh my God, like he needs to eat something. What's wrong with him?
Oh God, yeah.
And then he came out and he's like, I have cancer. You really don't know what anybody is ever going through. I know Cynthia Erivo said a few times when they were filming Wicked, that was a really horrible time for both her and Ariana, and they've never really expanded on why. But if you look at what was going on in Ariana's life at that point, she not only went through a divorce, but she was also accused of then being the other woman and taking a man away from his family. All that Nickelodeon stuff came out at that point. You don't know what trauma that resurfaced for her, if any. There were so many things that were happening. Everybody was commenting on her body. Everybody was commenting on her dynamic with Cynthia. You really just don't know what anybody is going through. And if you're going to sit there and bully her about her body, maybe you should have some empathy as well and look at the bigger picture. And she could be completely fine. That's the other side of it.
I would hate as well, like when Wicked came out, those two were very, very close, but they had done this amazing work. They had worked so hard. They both fucking rocked those characters. I thought the movies were really, really powerful. And having worked on that for 3 years back to back and have everyone just be like, you look really thin, I would be like, okay.
I would be like, shut the hell up.
More like you were too close to your co-star, especially if they were going through a really hard time. I'd be like, I don't know what you want me to say.
Right.
Because it's not your responsibility to share things about your personal life in order to justify like how you appear publicly. It's a really, really, really tough one.
I was listening to Call Her Daddy this morning and Olivia Wilde was talking about it and that picture of her on the red carpet where it's like obviously taken from a horrific angle.
The lighting is so bad.
It's not her fault. She's laughing about it on the podcast and she goes, oh my God, I looked like death. And she goes, but at the same time, I was there was she receiving an award or was she promoting a movie or something that she directed? She goes, this is a super exciting moment for me. Instead of talking about that, you're talking about my looks. She goes, I think with women, we really put them in boxes. We either talk about them in relation to men or we'll talk about their bodies. At the end of the day, like we're literally just doing the job of the patriarchy for the men because it's not about that. We should be able to celebrate women's achievements. That's exactly what we saw on the Wicked tour as well.
Yeah, I was also thinking about Olivia Wilde with Don't Worry Darling. The whole thing was taken over by what's her relationship with Harry Styles? How's her divorce going? I would have been so upset if I'd worked so hard to get to a point where I was putting out my own movie. And then people were only talking about, did Chris Pine spit on Harry Styles?
Stop.
Or who spat on who? I can't remember. With all of these things, it's so difficult because it is interesting to hear the background. But just now, Obsession and Backrooms have come up. Either of those men who have directed the movies, I know that they're younger. I know that they came up on YouTube. I don't know whether they're in relationships. I don't know anything that happened on set. I've not heard anyone talk about anyone's bodies. I don't want to shut down conversation because I do think if a young person is looking at Ariana, I understand it can have a passing mention, but the tour itself looks fucking incredible.
Insane.
And literally all over it is
Her
she
body,
looks
her
really
body,
thin.
her body.
What is art without the muse? Many of Western art's most famous works are depictions of women. But who were these women? Do they have their own stories to share with the world? Hi listeners, Grace Anna here, host of Art Muse, a podcast that shares the life stories of the women pictured in famous works of art. In doing so, Art Muse aims to reshape the ways in which we interpret these well-known works by paying dues to the women whose images have been immortalized, but whose names and stories have been wrongfully overlooked. Each episode focuses our attention on a specific female muse, sharing their important life and legacy. By sharing these women's stories, we are given the opportunity to appreciate these artworks from a new perspective, through the eyes of the women whose image stares back at us. Art Muse is currently in its third season. Season 3 continues to share the life stories of the women pictured in famous works of art, this time focusing on artist models who were also performers in their own right. From Sarah Bernhardt to Evelyn Nesbit to Marianne Anderson, these stories will keep you on the edge of your seat. You can find Art Muse anywhere you get your podcasts or on our website www.artmusepodcast.com.
So we spoke a little bit about her life outside of music as well.
Yes.
You followed any aspect of it with any interest?
Okay, so I stopped following her for a little bit. I would say when I was like 18, maybe.
Why?
You just get so wrapped up in your own life. I think I probably circled back to her when I was like 20 or 23. I kind of kept tabs on her the whole time, but I wouldn't say I was like invested in her by any means.
Was it like a self-censoring thing?
No, not really. I wasn't like consuming pop culture at that point. And I would say I probably circled back like 21 or 22. And who was she with at that point? Because she had some pretty iconic relationships, to be fair.
I remember the Pete Davidson debacle. Right. Someone who has had a lot of extremely public, dramatic relationships.
Even just like that Aussie guy that she was dating. She was with him when she filmed the music video with Mac, The Way. Was it called The Way? Anyway, the first collab that they did, which is when she first met Mac Miller as well. She was still with this Aussie guy, and I remember God, things were so messy at that point. I think he was either on Tumblr or YouTube or Instagram or some. Oh my God, no! It was this app called Kick. He went on there and everyone was like, oh my God, like Ariana kissed Mac, like how do you feel about that? And he was like, obviously we've had conversations about this, and basically just aired all his dirty laundry online.
Wait, she kissed him for the music video?
Yeah, and people were like, that looked a bit more than just like a music video kiss. Not long after, they then broke up, and then she starts dating Mac pretty immediately, and then very quickly started dating Pete, and then she leaves Pete, and then she's with Dalton, and then she starts dating Ethan. And so I think like you string all those things together, it feels like there's a pattern here.
Okay, we got a little muddled here. Here is the correct timeline for Ariana's relationships. She dated one of the Janoskians from 2012 to 2013. As Lillie mentioned, it ended as he publicly accused her of cheating with someone else. That person was Nathan Sykes, a member of the boy band The Wanted, who she ended up dating in 2013. In 2014, she dated the rapper Big Sean. Then she dated one of her backup dancers, Ricky Alvarez. Then from 2016 to 2018, she was in a really high-profile relationship with the late rapper Mac Miller. In 2018, shortly after her split with Mac, she had a very public romance and engagement with the comedian Pete Davidson. Then she dated another rapper, Mikey Foster. In 2020, she met her now ex-husband, Dalton Gomez. They married in 2021. 2 years later, she met Wicked co-star Ethan Slater. Public consensus says that Ethan and Ariana were both married to their respective partners. Ethan had just welcomed a child with his then wife, Lillie J. This is when things get really sticky. People accused Ariana of instigating an affair with Ethan and convincing him to leave his wife for her. This caused a lot of people to go back through her relationships, accused her of having a pattern of stealing men out of relationships with other people. I can see that. I've also seen a lot of people coming out talking about how the timelines are like a bit messy. I was just talking about this in another episode. If you're not causing like society-wide destructive behavior, I'm like, your personal life is really none of my business. If you're a predator, if you're not abusing people, I'm like, okay, you're a little messy and that's not great. What bums me out is that people will be selling out Chris Brown stadiums.
Oh, don't even start.
And then we'll be like, well, Ariana hasn't been single for a while. And I'm like, oh my God, fucking relax. It feels so beyond none of my business. I felt really weird about the Ethan Slater stuff. I think a lot of people have really, really complicated relationships. You never know what's going on behind closed doors. And it makes me so uncomfortable. Like, one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast to begin with is because people will impose their understanding of what's happened from the outside, not knowing who said what and who's done this and what the exact relationship timeline is, to be like, this is wrong and you should boycott her. Yeah. But it's okay if you go and watch Kanye.
I agree. I also think with the Ariana, Dalton, Ethan and his wife, I think it was an incredibly messy situation anyway. Obviously, none of us know what happened, but there was also rumours that Dalton had been cheating on Ariana quite a long time.
There's also a lot of lyrics in Eternal Sunshine point to the fact that he was maybe cheating on her or something else was going on. But that feeling of being like so deeply misunderstood by a group of people who were acting as judge, jury, and executioner, and not having the full context of the story and not feeling like I can come out and be like, actually, it was this, because you do feel like a much heavier sense of duty towards the people who were in your life than you do towards the public. And it's like the impulse to correct people must be so intense, but you're like, I don't owe these people anything, but I owe these people duty, secrecy, the protection of our relationship as well. Like, because Dalton isn't a celebrity.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have his own following. If that is true, if she had said he was cheating on me, people would go after him so aggressively. And he has no protection, and she knows that. The inability to say anything would be, for me, like, impossible.
There's rumours that they've both signed NDAs as well.
If I were a celebrity, it sounds really horrible, but if I were a celebrity, I would do that. I think after the whole Pete Davidson, the fallout of their engagement, I watched his comedy special.
What did he say about her? I can't remember.
It's not great. When you're in a relationship with someone, you have that trust.
Yeah.
And then once things fall apart, it's a free-for-all. I watched it, and he talks about the fact that she was interviewed by Vogue, and she mentions something which, like, no shade to a Vogue journalist, but if you're writing a feature, you want something juicy, has taken a comment which probably was taken out of context.
Shameless would never do that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And of course, they're trying to sensationalize it for more clicks, especially with the way the journalism is going now. Also, I think he was very upset about the fact that she had talked about their sex life.
Oh, Mr. BDE.
The only comments that I think really stuck, he was like, if I sprayed myself a different color and got on the cover of Vogue.
Oh.
And I think that's been something that's really chased her throughout her career.
Yeah. He hit a nerve with that.
Is the blackfishing, Asian appropriation. Now she's looks completely different. What are your thoughts on the whole?
I feel like I'm not qualified to talk about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I will say, Ariana strikes me as someone that very much, I feel as though she's a bit of a social chameleon in that way. And I don't think she maybe thinks through the repercussions of that, or maybe she's not advised what the repercussions. That's not me defending her at all. I just think as an observation.
You're so right with these people who are so isolated. They have people in their team, but I'm also like, those people are sycophants.
Yeah.
They're there to tell you whatever they need to get you out of the bed in the morning so that you'll get behind a camera or get on stage or get whatever. If you say, I want to do this, their job is to be like, that's amazing, love that idea, you're such an inspiration. I have a friend who works in film, and she talks about how a lot of celebrities are really infantilized because they've had a team of people look after them so long because they're not allowed to do everyday things.
No,
They run down to the
exactly.
store to get a pint of milk. Someone has to do it for them.
Surely you start to realise, actually, I can't nip to the garage in my pyjamas anymore for a pint of milk, even if I want to.
Actually, crazy.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's
Think
really
about
weird.
it.
A lot of people freeze in time at the time that they get famous. And when
Yeah.
you're a child and you become famous, it's all the more you've missed out on all of those formative experiences. You said you were following the Tumblr. You said that you took on the way that she dressed
Yeah.
and things like that. Was it just you that was doing that?
Oh, I mean, the girls that I was friends with at school, I would say she was very much just like, she was the it girl. Everybody loved her. Some of my friends were like big into Victorious and Sam and Cat, so they loved her from that perspective. I do remember when her debut album came out, it was super exciting. I don't have any like core memories, I guess, as such, where we would be like ridiculously into Ariana. I don't think anybody in my like friend group was very like obsessed.
It was you mostly.
Yeah, but I think as well, you're at that age where you are so like easily influenced. And you're like, who am I? And so you just grab hold of someone that you think is cool and you're like, I'm going to be them. Actually.
Yeah. Oh my God, at 15, 16, of course you
Oh,
are. Did you go to any of the concerts?
I had tickets to a concert because, I mean, barely anybody comes to New Zealand. And when they do, they go to Auckland. I lived down in Dunedin, so I was like a 2-hour flight away. And the flights were super expensive. That's like a whole weekend. So I had tickets to one of the concerts and then I didn't end up going. I can't remember what had happened at that point. And I do remember, I'm like, I do regret that. I wish I had gone because it's so hard to get tickets to her concerts now too.
You remember what tour it was?
So I know one of the songs is Honeymoon Avenue. It definitely wasn't Dangerous Woman.
Yours truly. So that was the first ever album.
Yeah.
I'm 100% a fake fan insofar as I didn't know what Honeymoon Avenue was. And then I really wanted to go to the tour in London. And then I saw that Honeymoon Avenue was on the set list and I was like, I don't know what that is. And then I saw a TikTok of a girl being like, how dare these bitches...
I think the aggression.
She was like, how dare these bitches Shazam Honeymoon Avenue? They don't deserve the tickets to get to this tour. I was like, oh my God, that would be me. I would be like, what the fuck is this song? From Yours Truly to Dangerous Woman, it was quite in line with the Disney Nickelodeon pipeline of trying to break free of being a child star.
Yeah, totally.
And becoming very overly sexual as a result. The whole Dangerous Woman, like the leather,
Crazy.
the knee-high boots.
So iconic as well. I would probably, if someone asked me what was her first album, I would say I know that there's one before Dangerous Woman, but Dangerous Woman really felt like the moment where she became a celebrity.
That was something that I put in my notes as well. There's a difference between singing and branding. I think during Wicked, I realised she is a fucking fantastic singer.
Insane.
But because her branding had taken over her, during that Dangerous Woman era, everybody can remember exactly the high ponytail, the knee-high boots, the rabbit ears.
the big jersey.
I think it's taken a while for them to reach equilibrium. But I remember at that point, like, even though I knew intellectually she's an amazing singer, but I felt like she had been very, very branded.
Even though I do pop culture stuff for a living, I am somebody that doesn't like things when they're popular. I haven't seen Off Campus yet.
Me neither.
Oh, I'm like, it's too popular.
Also, the more people text you about it,
I
I'm
won't be
like, I don't
watching
want to
that.
watch it. I'm loving this whole erotica for women kind of
big
thing
fan.
that's coming up. People were so against Wuthering Heights.
Oh, see, I haven't seen that either.
Oh my God. Okay, so I read the book because I thought stupidly before I watched the movie, I was like, oh, I've got to read the book because I would like to compare them. Not related at all.
I've seen the commentary, like, it's so different. And I was listening to a podcast about it, and they said, yeah, but if you notice, the title actually has bunny rabbits.
Oh my God, that's the cutest thing I've ever heard with Bunny Rabbits. Please continue.
So it's not a perfect depiction of the book. It's not trying to be the book. It's inspired by the book. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting.
She's a really beautiful cinematographer, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And Wuthering Heights, I was like, okay, if you're looking for this to be a good adaptation of the book, it's not. If you're looking for a beautiful film,
Yeah.
like beautifully filmed and also appreciative for what it is, which is like a sexy film for women,
Totally.
it does amazingly.
No,
it's a very
exactly.
sexy film for women. Someone's
time.
focusing on women's sexuality and the female gaze. And I think that's so wonderful.
I totally think you're right, because like when the Dangerous Woman era came out, she was very sexualized, but it didn't feel as though it was for men. I think now that she's gone this other way where she's so whimsical and so sweet, and I think people have just gone, well, but you used to be the super empowered, sexy woman. What are you doing now?
I think anything that empowers you and makes you happy and feel confident is great. Maybe this is how she feels her sexiest. It really doesn't matter. Speaking about being empowered, did it prompt you to think about yourself in a certain way or see the world differently?
I remember specifically like when Thank You Next came out, I was also going through a breakup. I was like, you know what, you've hit the goddamn nail on the head. It was definitely my most played song that year, but I felt very connected to her, and I was like, thank you for seeing me, and thank you for giving me this other viewpoint that wasn't, I hate this man and I'm just going to be eaten up by all these awful feelings.
Such a healthy way of looking at it, yeah.
And it just felt like a big sister moment. It's like you feel as though you're a bit of a big sister to me. So that was quite a nice era. I've always found her music quite empowering.
And after such a public relationship as well, she had the opportunity to be a bit more vindictive. I thought that was so surprising, like very elegant of her.
Yep, I agree.
Did you ever want to be famous when you were younger?
No.
Love that. That's so healthy and well adjusted.
I wanted to be a writer. I was obsessed with Lauren Conrad.
Did you watch the TV show?
No, just read her books. And then Carrie Bradshaw. I never wanted to be famous.
What's sad about the writing thing is that was the dream job. The one in all the rom-coms and in Sex and the City was to write for a magazine. And now that just doesn't exist
It's not a thing
anymore.
It's like I have a Substack. I still think with TikTok and writing for your Substack and doing a podcast and stuff, I just think that's the equivalent of what it was back in the day. I think when we looked at it like Devil Wears Prada, Sex and the City kind of vibes, I'm like, they had no idea that all of this stuff would exist in the future. But if you were going to write a TV show now that has the cool girl thing, I would almost say TikTok and podcasts and Substacks and all that, it is still kind of the same thing.
But we don't have a space for that someone to be institutionally backed. And and also they don't have the space to be creative because you're not being paid to do it. You're doing it out of the love of the fucking game. And most people who have a Substack are also doing brand consulting. They're also producing podcasts. They're also doing reality TV. They're also doing speaking circuits. The environment now really makes it impossible for people.
Yeah.
Were there any scandals that you felt like you needed to defend her?
No, I'm not a good fan in that sense, because I don't look at it and go, must defend them, or must throw my 2 cents worth in there. I just think there's so many nuances. I mean, with the alleged cheating with Ethan, I'm like, I just don't think you really know what happened. Relationships just are complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can sit there and throw a very strong opinion at it without knowing the full story, and we're never going to know the full story. So
what I find so annoying listening to you say that, not about what you're saying, generally, is that I think most people recognize that's the healthiest way of looking at it. but that's not going to get you engagement online.
Oh, exactly. Even back to the Pete talking about her in the comedy gig. Of course he's going to talk about that. It's clickbait in a way.
You've got engagement bait. No one's interested in nuance anymore.
No.
And I think with Pete, obviously, if you're a comedian, you're going to draw from your life. It would be weirder if he just never mentioned it, especially coming off of that. She made him very famous. So people were going to his show basically to hear him talk about it.
Oh my God, I just remembered that lyric in one of her songs as well, where she literally said, wearing your Gucci shoes or something, and like, I made you famous.
Oh, like running after.
Yeah.
What is it?
What is that lyric?
The lyric is from In My Head on the Thank You Next album. It goes, look at you, boy, I invented you, your Gucci tennis shoes running from your issues. I was thinking about this with Olivia Rodrigo's new album. People now listen to albums to try and figure out what happened during the relationship. They'll listen to it to try and gain little pieces of evidence. Same thing happened with Tortured Poets Department.
Oh my God, that's right.
A lot of the hype around it was, oh, this lyric talks about the breakdown of the relationship between Joe and starting with Matty.
What are the scandals?
So we have the body. There's a lot of scandals around her relationship timelines, which you've already touched on, her blackfishing and Asian culture appropriation.
I do remember that when she went from these crazy spray tans to then she was like very pale.
I think she also has tattoos. I think one of her videos, she films in an Asian street or something. To clarify on the Asian fishing point, in 2021, she suddenly stopped spray tanning and started wearing new makeup looks that seemed to mimic Asian women. She also posted a new tattoo that was supposed to say 7 rings in Japanese to celebrate releasing a song with that name. However, like many ill-considered tattoos using languages and alphabets that people aren't familiar with, a native speaker quickly pointed out that it actually says small Japanese grill. And then there was the scandal, which isn't her fault, but I do think that this has massively affected her, about the Manchester bombing. And I think we moved on from that pretty quickly.
It had the One Love concert and then it was kind of like, okay, well, it's done now.
Exactly. I think we as a society were like, oh, what a win. But I cannot imagine the amount of guilt. In 2017, Ariana Grande was doing the Manchester leg of the Dangerous Woman tour when a bomb was detonated that killed 22 people. Incredibly, less than a month later, she was back on the same stage doing the One Love benefit concert, which raised money for those affected by the incident. It included artists like Justin Bieber, Katy Perry, Liam Gallagher, and Miley Cyrus. And then people were blaming Mac Miller's death on her.
That, I think, is so incredibly unfair.
It's so evil.
He had addiction issues. I just don't think you can blame somebody else for something like that. He had his own problems, and again, we don't know what they went through as a couple. I think when she was with Pete and Mac was still alive, she would detail things about Mac and their relationship that she just was like, this was horrible. And then for that to actually happen, like, that's horrific.
Addiction is a horrible disease, and it affects everybody involved.
And it's shocking as well. It's something that really does rattle people because he was so young and he was so successful. And that's not someone that you assume would struggle with that.
I think that's symptomatic of the fact that we believe that we're so close to celebrities and we know what's going on.
No, and blaming it on her, I do see from some perspective why people did that. It's like she left Mac, she then very quickly got engaged to Pete.
Yeah.
Devastating.
I also think, and this is something that I've really focused on, is that sometimes when women get too successful in the media, we see too much of them. Public sentiment just flips and they want to tear them down. They build someone up to such an impossible standard and then they'll take something, anything, and it can be really legitimate and it doesn't have to be. But they'll tear down the it girl and relish in being like, she was actually never that great anyway. Oh, she was always, you know, size too big or...
Literally. And she has said before, I know you've seen so much of me, I'm so sorry, I'll disappear soon. She is well aware that we want to see her, but they don't want to see too much of her. Even Jennifer Lawrence.
Or Blake Lively before everything that happened with Justin Baldoni.
Yeah.
She was everywhere. She was riding sky high. She was head of the Met Gala. She was so popular. She was the moment. And then these nebulous claims come out. Again, same thing as Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. There's a court case. She's alleging abuse, but she's actually been a real bitch anyways. Who really knows? It's insane how quickly public opinion and the cycles of media and the it girl, and every time someone gets really famous, I get scared because you can't be front of mind for too long. It attracts jealousy and people's resentment.
Well, someone even said, I saw a tweet about it recently, and they were like, I don't think I've ever seen a photo of Ariana on holiday. I was like, man, when you think about it, she either does it in full secrecy or the girl just never takes a break.
Or her holidays are literally just staying at home doing nothing. Because once you get to that level of fame, you can't go anywhere. This is quite embarrassing for me. I quite often, because I live in central London, run into famous people. I always say run into, I mean walk past famous people.
Stop, that's my dream. I've never seen a famous person here.
My brain really functions in the most useless ways. I'm like really, really good. I always walk past someone and then I'll be with my friend, I'll be like, oh, did you see so-and-so sitting outside that cafe? And they're like, no, how the fuck did you see that? I think it's also just because I consume pop culture like fucking nobody's business. So I'm like super switched onto it. But as a kid, I remember whenever I'd see a famous person, my parents would be like, let them have their fucking dinner.
Oh, totally.
And I was like, no, it's their job. I think back on it and I'm like, oh my God. Once I'm going to bleep out his name because he's now been cancelled. But before he was cancelled, I was in Soho in New York. I left a restaurant mid-brunch and sprinted down the road to talk.
No way.
He was my celebrity crush when I was younger.
He was very crush-worthy back in the day.
He was very crush-worthy
He
back
had a
in the
real
day.
sex appeal about him.
I remember I literally sprinted down the road and I saw no problem with it. If I was walking down the road and someone was sprinting down the road after me, I would be terrified. But we do have this entitlement to people's time because they're a public figure. They depend on me for their career, their bills, their popularity. Therefore, if I stop them in the street, and now if I see people on the street, I'm like, I don't see you, sis. Don't worry about it.
Obviously, a lot of celebrities come to New Zealand because we're so laid back. We're just like, and also you don't expect to see a celebrity in New Zealand. So even if you did, you'd be like, is that who I think it is? I don't know. I interviewed Sam Neill one time for the paper that I worked for back home. And he was saying he had Cillian Murphy come stay with him after all the Peaky Blinders stuff. Yeah, and he goes, I said to him, right, tomorrow morning we'll get up and we'll go for a coffee. And Cillian was like, oh, maybe we'll just get someone to go pick it up for us. And Sam was like, no, it's all good. We'll just go have a coffee. And he was like, yeah, but people will come up to us and stuff. And he was like, no, they won't, I promise you. To be fair, it was a very small town. They went and they had a coffee and they had breakfast. And Cillian was apparently just like, what the hell person went up to them? How crazy that. And Cillian will probably remember for a long, long time.
That's what I mean about celebrities being infantilized when he's like, oh, it's to go and pick up a coffee. It's not because he's a bad person. It's just because it's a physical impossibility for him.
Literally.
So Ireland, I've heard, they are really proud societally of not bothering celebrities because there are so many Irish celebrities. I mean, I think the Irish are so cool generally. They have a social contract, like an unspoken social contract of you just don't bother celebrities. And when I was 17, 18, I was living in Jamaica and it's the same thing. Like there's such a high concentration of celebrities in Jamaica. There's so many people. And I'm always the one who's freaking out. Thank God I was with Jamaicans because I remember being like, oh my God, I have to go and say hello. And they were like, do not speak to him.
I think you have to remember as well, it is a job for them to be a celebrity. So someone coming up and asking for a photo or having to talk to them in public and stuff, it would be like if you were out having brunch with your family and then a client rings you and goes, hey, I'm going to need you to do this right now. And you're like, dude, it's a sad day.
Yes,
Let me have my weekends.
I think as a celebrity, they've got to focus so hard on having an inner that they have genuine relationships with. I think Billie Eilish has come out and said, I realised when I was 21 that everybody I was spending time with worked for me. Why do you think she's so popular and she's had such an enduring profile?
I was thinking about this. I think with Ariana, she's somebody that you feel as though you know a lot about. If you break it down, I don't really think we do. I think she's very fascinating in that way. You feel as though you've got this parasocial relationship with her. You're like, Mac has passed away. She's had a divorce. She's broken up with Pete. She's had Manchester. Nickelodeon happened. There has been so much in that girl's life that has happened in the public eye to the point where you've almost felt as though you grieve with her. And I think that creates an intimacy between celebrity and fans. But at the same time, you don't really know anything about her at all. You don't know her day-to-day routine. You don't know what her and her friends talk about. There's just so many things that I'm like, I don't really think you know her as a person. And I think because she keeps everybody almost at arm's reach, that's a very fascinating thing as a fan. It's almost like when you have a friend that gives you a little bit, but not everything. And you're kind of like, what can I do to
Get them
make
to
you
open
love
up.
me more? Yeah.
Yeah, I think a huge part of celebrity jobs now is literally trying to manage a parasocial relationship with a million people.
I do very much respect when actors don't really have social media and they don't really give too much away about their personal life, and they do that because when you see them on screen, they want you to see them as the character, not the actor. That's a very, very special thing to do, but also it must be incredibly hard.
I always feel so bad when I'm reading a gossipy story or something. It's like a source close to them said.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can you imagine being a celebrity and reading a source close to them and being like, I know that I said those exact words to my friend last Sunday over brunch.
Well, it's like the Rebecca Vardy stuff.
Okay, this is a piece of quintessential UK celebrity lore. Rebecca Vardy and Colleen Rooney are both wives and girlfriends, WAGs for short, of footballers. Essentially, Colleen Rooney realised that a lot of her personal life was being leaked to the press. So she started feeding fake rumours to different people in her close friend circle to see which pieces of information would be passed along to media outlets. Eventually, she dramatically announced on her social media that all of the fabricated information she had told Rebecca Vardy at the time was being passed on to the Daily Mail, etc. This revelation culminated in a trial in the UK that was derisively referred to in the tabloids as the Wagatha Christie trials. A lot of people are speculating that this might be her final tour. I don't know whether that's also just a ploy to sell more tickets.
Possibly.
What do you think her legacy is or will be?
I do believe that in a good 20, 30 years, we're going to look back and go, that poor girl went through so much and we treated her like shit. This is genuinely what I think it's going to be.
Yeah. I hope she has a happy life. Ariana, if you ever listen to this, I hope you have a happy life.
I just want her to one day... I don't think she ever will because I do genuinely believe that she loves the acting, singing, dancing.
She's a performer.
Oh, yeah. That's all she knows. But part of me hopes like one day we just don't really get any updates from her and maybe she's living a beautiful life in a beautiful place, just chilling.
Did you listen to The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift?
Look, I've listened to some songs, but I'm not a huge, like, I'll listen to the album start to finish.
I've talked about this on other episodes. I make myself listen to the album start to finish when albums come out because I will be like, this is how it was intended to be listened to. Listen to Wishlist. I don't know if you know the song. The lyrics are about how she wants to settle down, can have a few kids. And people were coming out being like, she's elevating the trad wife lifestyle. And I was like, no, I think this just speaks to deep desire as a person to have a normal life. It's not about conservative, traditional gender norms. I think she wants to be never heard from again.
Yeah.
And live off the back of her success and not be bothered.
Ariana as well, she's very publicly spoken about how she loves love. She wanted her marriage to Dalton to be the marriage. She literally said in one of her songs, I'm going to get married once, and that's, I think at the core of it, that girl just wants to be loved.
And who doesn't?
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody goes into a marriage thinking, this is going to fall apart in 3 years, it's going to be horrible. Okay, final question. Who is your celebrity crush?
Oh, yeah, I had to think about this. So I've just finished watching Yellowstone. Better late than never.
Okay.
Luke Grimes. I love a cowboy. Love a cowboy.
Luke Grimes, I looked at him and I was like, where do I know him from? He's in all of these war movies and stuff. And then I saw 50 Shades of Grey and I was like, oh, he's the youngest.
Yeah. I never knew that
He's the
until I
youngest
watched
sibling.
Yellowstone. He's also in Ella Langley's music video, Choosing
Oh,
Texas.
really?
Yeah.
How can people find you?
Oh, New South Wales on TikTok, Substack, and Instagram.